All right, I wanted to share with you guys a website that I've been working on and that Allison and I have actually been using some. It's designed to simply be a more efficient way of creating tests, getting our grades back quickly, and most importantly, being able to use tests over and over again for redos without having to create new tests, which I know has been a struggle of mine this year to continually create new tests as students have to redo assignments. I know that we've been using DEA probes. They have strengths and weaknesses. A lot of the questions are pretty good, but they don't always necessarily align very well. And my biggest problem with the probes are that when a student takes a probe, for each question, it tells them if they missed that question or not and what the correct answer was. And so students can sort of remember, this question, the answer was A. So then if you want to reuse that question for a later assessment, it sort of invalidates the data because did the kid get it because they understand it or because they remember that this question, the answer was A. The idea of offering several redos and never repeating the question is not only almost impossible, but a little bit silly because you have some great questions that should be used over and over again. So anyways, this site sort of is an answer to that, and I'm still in the development stage, but it is able to be used. And if you would be interested in doing this and feel like this would be helpful to you, just let me know and we can make that work. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. When you log in as a teacher, you're taken to a page that obviously students don't have access to. And the first stage is that you're able to create questions. And when you create questions, it's pretty straightforward. You put your question in, you put in the multiple choice options, you select the correct answer, and what standard, these are obviously my 8th grade standards, that question is associated with. For us math teachers, hopefully you'll appreciate this has a really nice math editor built into it. I just sort of created the system so that it's very easy to let's say you want a square root, which is always a struggle for mine. You can just simply put in, I want the square root of 9, and then when you copy that to your document, you get this nice square root symbol. Or, of course, fractions and lots of other stuff that in middle school we probably don't even need. You can obviously also import images if you have a picture of angles or of shapes that you're using. So once you've created your questions, the most easy way to use this is for each standard, a quiz is basically automatically created. And here's some of the quizzes that I've already put together and made questions for. What happens is this is a page that students will also be able to access. And when they select the test that they're supposed to take, it's going to, out of all of the questions you've created for that standard, pull random questions. So each quiz, each time someone clicks it, not only are they not necessarily going to get the exact same questions, which is great for redos. You don't have to build, redo 1, redo 2, redo 3. But even if you're giving the quiz to several students, as I refresh, you'll see that the order of the questions and even the questions themselves change, so that the person next to them, number 1, isn't the same for the next person. So this kind of eliminates problems of cheating. And also, once again, makes it really, really nice for redos. You don't ever have to create duplicate quizzes. Once the questions are done, all the tests are made for you. You just predefine, this one has 11 questions. So the student goes through and takes the test, and hopefully they put a little bit more consideration into their answers than I am right now. Once they've selected all of their answers, they're immediately taken to a screen that shows them their grade. And if they've taken it more than once, it shows them all of their grades. So I already did this once, and I made a 36. I obviously need to brush up on distance rate time. Just now, I made a 0. I didn't get a single one right. For them and for you, you get to see what day they did it. You get to see what time they did it. I obviously retook this recently. Both of them are today. So the student sees their grade instantaneously. And as a teacher, you're able to see your grades. So distance rate time, here are my results. You can see I took it twice, and I had a student that accidentally took this test, and so her results are there as well. A test that I have given to my students, which was over angles, so here's my grade book. And unfortunately, our grade speed system is just impossible to import things. But this at least will organize it for you per block and then alphabetically by last name. So as you're entering your grades in the grade speed, the first student in my grade book is Abdullah and then Fiza. It also shows you by highlighting with a different color when there's been redos and what day and time those redos were taken. So that kind of helps you organize, if a student's taking it for the first time or the second time and track that progress. Now, all of this is per standard, which a lot of our initial formative assessments are going to be by standard. But if you want to build a benchmark exam, instead of it randomly creating the questions for you, you can create your own quiz, and you can select whatever standards you want. So if I've covered these first 5 standards, then when I hit submit, it's going to let me title my quiz. And then here's all of the questions from all of those standards, and I can just simply check mark whichever questions I want to be on that quiz. So you can see I can select these questions here. There's some cost per unit questions, some number line questions. And then when I submit that, it's going to allow me to go back and look at that specific quiz. Here's all of the quizzes that I've created. There's the benchmark I just made. You can see this is what the students would see and answer. And it also is going to allow you for that benchmark to also immediately see those grades. And once again, it's organized by block, alphabetically by last name, to make transferring the grade speed as easy as grade speed will let us do it. So when a student logs in, what they're going to see is very similar to this page. If I log in as a student, let me pull up one of my students' passwords, so Govan. If I log in as a student, then I'm immediately taken to a page where I see all of the standards and what grades I've made on that standard. I've only used this system for a little bit. Govan's taken 1 test over angles, and he made 100. At any time, if he needs to redo a test, he can go here and redo that test without me having to do anything extra for him to redo it, which once again is really nice and convenient. That's pretty much the gist of the website. There's not a lot more to it. However, the last thing that I'll add before I stop is this is all a part of a bigger website that I've been putting together that allows parents and students and teachers to interact together with that student's data. And this website isn't complete, but it's pretty close. You can see here I'm logged in as myself right now. I put some dummy data in. You're able to see, excuse me, you're able to see. Oh, I'm logged in as Govan, excuse me. Let me log out as him. As I said, it's not complete yet. So if I log back in as a teacher here, I can see my DEA scores on DEA 1, DEA 2, and DEA 3. I can see my grades, which this obviously syncs up with the other site, so I can see what I've made on each one of the tests that I've been given. I'm able to see my results on all of my DEA tests. And now, once again, I've just put some dummy data in. This is just me. So obviously I didn't do very well. But for DEA 1, DEA 2, and DEA 3, you can see your results. And all the results are organized by standard. So this is not by question, but by standard, which I think is a little bit more useful. But as a teacher, you also have access to see results. You can pick which DEA test. So here's DEA 3, and this is my class. I've imported some of my students' grades. So once again, it's organized by standard. So Fiza, this is her actual results. I can look through and see that she's been doing great, except for right here. And both the questions she missed here are slope. So obviously she's going to need to work on some slope. It also allows me to see who missed what standard as a list, and it will highlight for me all of the students that are bubble students. So if I go over to slope, I can see, yeah, there's Fiza. She needs to work on slope. And she's highlighted because she was a bubble student. She was really close. It also allows me to connect with Khan Academy and IXL and let me define what modules link up to what standards. And then I'm able to see a broad assessment view as I kind of scroll over. This is standard 1. So I can see what each one of my students did on DEA 1, which I don't have the data for, DEA 2, DEA 3, how they did on their in-class test, and it even will show me their scores on IXL and Khan Academy. So I get this nice big picture view. That's another perspective. And then as a student, I'm also able to see, this is a view that a student would be able to see. I can see how I did on DEA 2 for distance rate time and DEA 3. There were 2 questions on DEA 3 and the in-class test. Or, this also will show me how I did on any of those formative modules on IXL or Khan Academy. So once again, I would love some teachers that are interested in trying this out with their kids. I think it's going to be really helpful. I think it's going to be awesome for parents and kids to be able to log in and see this information. And there's also a feature that's being developed right now that lets students set goals based on their data, and so it's a little bit more student driven. I've been sort of experimenting with this with my kids, and they really buy into it. They love seeing their data. They love having control. They love being able to say, like, wow, I really need to work on representations of linear equations. Look, I missed all of these questions here. That's what I want to work on. And when it's their choice, they work a lot harder and retain a lot more information. So anyways, the main point of this was just to show you a much easier way to do benchmarks and grade. Obviously, you have to have access to computers, but there are 3 computer labs in the school and laptop carts floating around. So if this is something you're interested in, please let me know. I'll work with anybody, and hopefully this will be useful to you. Thanks so much.